All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Azizi podcast, and I'm here at 360 promotion office again, and I'm excited and happy and honored to speak with you, Tom Loeffler, who I'm fortunate to call my friend,
Yeah.
and it's been a long ride. I've made it to the United States, and I can now talk to you. How's it going, sir?
You made it back to the United States.
I made it
Getting
back.
here the first time was a big accomplishment. Then you moved up to Canada, to Toronto, and now you're back.
It's crazy because the one thing I love Canada and everyone's great there and everyone's treating me very well, but it's just the weather. I really missed California weather, especially at this moment where it's 0 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Fahrenheit in Toronto. So, and here it's 35 or 80, 90 Fahrenheit. Enjoying it. So
Yeah,
happy
you
to
hit
be
a
here.
you hit a good stretch for the time that you're visiting.
I know.
It's warm down here in LA, and I remember the last time we did the podcast was downstairs in the conference center. This
Yeah,
time we're upstairs here with we have the.
the
This is
Klitschko.
actually from the Mandalay Bay, one of the light boxes from Mandalay Bay
Very
when
cool.
Vladimir fought out there.
Yeah, you have a lot of memorabilia from different fights,
Yeah,
and I see that they're all signed by the superstar athletes that you were promoting and managing. So that's a lot of history, and it's a pretty cool run that you're having so far. It's crazy. It's
it's a
crazy.
great run. Working with Kevin Kelly, Obakar, Shane Mosley. Got Shane his first world title fight on HBO. James Toney, I think it was James for 3 or 4 fights. Um, then going on to the Klitschko brothers, and that started the promotional career.
Yeah,
And then we signed Triple G and built him up.
my most favorite boxer who actually made me fall in love with the sport of boxing
Yeah,
itself because I
that
started with Triple G. I just followed him, his progress. As someone from Kazakhstan as myself, I followed Triple G, who's also from Kazakhstan in Los Angeles, and that was a huge inspiration for me. But yeah,
Triple G got a lot of new fans into boxing. I had so many people come up to me during the fights, whether it was in New York, whether it's out here in LA, saying this is the first time they've ever seen boxing. They came to see Triple G. They heard so much about him. They weren't disappointed, even if there was, an early knockout like Rubio, where
hmm
we broke the attendance record, shattered the attendance record actually, almost doubled it at the StubHub Center from any previous. There were so many champions that had fought there before,
hmm
and Triple G shattered the record there. But it was a common occurrence, a common theme that he brought in new boxing fans. Those are the type of fighters that boxing needs. It was the excitement, the curiosity. People hearing like, "Oh, this guy's knocking everyone out. I got to go see him." It was almost like the Mike Tyson effect in the
hmm
middleweight
exactly.
situation.
And I've seen it firsthand, when I was working in the office in Los Angeles and I told everyone that, I'm a huge fan of Triple G. And I remember some of our people already knew him, but some of our coworkers, which interesting, female coworkers, were really into Triple G after they actually saw him
If they
fight.
saw
And,
him fight,
and
sure.
they would email me every time after he fought, they would email me their, thoughts and comments
Right.
or, like protests or anything like that. So that was pretty cool to see them becoming fans of Triple G and boxing in general. So I was pretty proud because I felt like I contributed to his promotion in that
Yeah.
in that sense.
No, absolutely. Look, everyone, really, there were so many little contributions that added up into a global superstar.
Yeah.
It was a dichotomy with Triple G. It was almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
hmm
And I think that's why he transcended so well with the Mexican fans, with the fans in the UK,
hmm
fans in Poland, ever since the Proxa fight
hmm
on HBO. It was like 5 years in a row after that fight. He was voted Boxer of the Year in Poland. All over the world.
hmm
Japan, he was very popular when we went to Japan for, actually, it was China for one of the conventions over there. People were just lined up because they would always show his fights on the open channel there in China. Um,
Yeah,
and
he's loved in China. I know that he knows a lot of businessmen in China.
yeah,
The huge businessman, one of the biggest one in the world, Jack Ma,
sure.
who is the CEO and founder of Alibaba, is a
Yeah.
huge fan of Triple G,
hmm
and which is a huge deal because
Yeah, Jack Ma came to a number of his fights.
yeah, I saw him personally, and it's just amazing. And it's when we talk about legacy for Triple G or for boxers in general. It's common to talk about legacy, right? And Triple G is, I think, in addition to his amazing style, amazing fights and knockouts, there's also a thing where he opened the doors for a lot of boxers, not only from Kazakhstan but from all of the former Soviet Union territory.
I tell you, everyone after the success we had, because nobody really knew where Kazakhstan was here, at least not in the United States. They
no, trust me, I know it myself.
Everyone,
yeah,
you know firsthand, but everyone associated Kazakhstan with Borat and the whole movies, and Triple G kind of shattered that whole myth about what
like
really
stereotype,
goes on.
I would say.
The stereotype.
Yeah.
And he literally put Kazakhstan on the map over here as a global ambassador, not only for the sport of boxing but for the country of Kazakhstan. Every time he stepped in the ring, he had, he's fighting for himself, fighting for his family, fighting for his team, and his country. And so there was a lot of pressure on him to perform. And Triple G was one of those really unique and rare individuals in boxing. The bigger the challenge, the bigger the fight, the bigger the stage. When he went from the theater at Madison Square Garden to the big arena in Madison Square Garden, starting on HBO and then just moving up. Every time the challenge was bigger, the opponent was bigger, he raised his level of competition or his performance. With spectacular knockouts. With everyone said Matthew Macklin's going to expose Triple G. Then he started. Curtis Stevens was going to expose Triple G. Then it was Daniel Geale, who was the former champion. So many Danny Jacobs. Everyone thought Danny Jacobs, even though he missed the IBF.
Boy, was that a good fight, though.
It was a good fight, but Danny Jacobs deliberately missed the IBF weigh-in, even though he had agreed to it.
Right.
And he had a huge weight advantage. When I say huge, a huge weight advantage over Triple G.
It was. I mean, you could physically see it, how Jacobs looked in comparison to Triple G, even though Triple G still managed to get his knockdown against Jacobs.
He did get the knockdown, which really gave him the fight, and it was undisputed in terms of 10-8 round. I have a lot of respect for Danny and his family, and I like Danny personally. I don't like what he did. I don't think it was sportsmanlike conduct.
Right,
I think probably his team encouraged him to do that. That happened the week before against David Lemieux and Curtis Stevens. That kind of went under the radar with the IBF, where Curtis Stevens made the weight and David Lemieux didn't. Came in way overweight, and then we saw the results where he just pummeled Stevens. And
Lemieux always had problems with making the weight, and
well, he didn't do. Let me clarify that. He made the regular weigh-in, but didn't do the IBF second day weigh-in.
I see.
Which again gave him a huge weight advantage. David Lemieux was one of Triple G's at the time the only champion, or the first champion, to actually get in the ring with Triple G.
Props to him for that.
And props to David Lemieux. But I think the other champions saw what happened to Lemieux and didn't want any part of that. Even Canelo made history by being the first WBC champion from Mexico to ever vacate the WBC title. I mean, that's like sacrilegious in Mexico with the Mexican fans, to vacate a title in order to avoid a challenge like that.
Yeah, I remember watching that fight in 2017, and I was actually so pumped up. I was singing Kazakh national anthem.
Canelo Triple G1?
Canelo Triple G1, yeah. I was singing Kazakh national anthem in front of all of my American friends with pride.
That was a great energy in the arena.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
We set the third highest gate in Nevada state history, the highest gate ever for a middleweight championship fight, and that was a great event. I thought Triple G clearly won that fight.
Absolutely, no doubt about that.
One judge, who won't go named on this program, but everyone knows what happened there. It's I think she probably was the only person I can comfortably say probably the only person in the entire world that had Canelo winning 10 rounds out of 2. I mean, it was so distorted. It wasn't even. You wonder just what was going on there. But then there was another judge who, out of those 2 rounds, which was probably Triple G's best round, the 7th round, gave it to Canelo. And that was, if that judge had scored that round correctly, then there wouldn't have been a controversy because Triple G would have won that fight. It would have been
Absolutely.
2 judges for him and 1 against, which there was, I don't know what he would have had to do to win the fight in the 3rd judge's scorecard. But anyway, it's just, I still don't think Triple G has lost a fight to
In
this
his
date.
entire
You know, 'cause
career
I think
in
that
professional
the
boxing.
second fight was much closer. You got to give Canelo credit. He adjusted. He fought much better the second fight. I don't think he won the second fight. I think it was a draw. Like one judge had it as a draw. But again, that's all water under the bridge. You know,
Gotta
right
look
now.
forward. Gotta move forward.
Yeah, moving forward. You know, Triple G's in training camp right now. He's in training with Jonathan Banks.
His new coach.
His
he
date
had
has
2
been
fights
pushed
with
back
so
so
far.
many
Yep.
times. I don't even know if you can, you know, he's training, put it that way. He's training right now. Ali Akhmedov is with him. They're supposed to fight on the same show.
Against his mandatory Camille Chirameta.
Right. That's who he's slated to fight. You know, as soon as there's a confirmation of a date and a time and location. I still think Triple G has a lot of knockouts in him. That's how that's how we met. Is you actually came to the track
Exactly.
with Coach Dave and Doug Fisher, who's now the editor of Ring Magazine, and you came down and
What I said, thank you, Tom, for actually, because I knew the job that you were doing, and I thank you personally for the things
that's
that you're
right.
doing for boxing.
You
not
showed
just
appreciation for
exactly, not just for the sport of boxing here in the United States, but also in Kazakhstan. Because going back to my original statement, Triple G left a legacy, and he's still, that legacy lives now while Triple G is being active. Is that a lot of boxers in Kazakhstan are turning pro. Because of Triple G's way, because they're being inspired, and a lot of promoters are actually seeking out professional boxers in Kazakhstan and in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan and the parts of Russia. All of that because they all are looking for the next Triple G, and they always say, "I found the next Triple G."
That's funny,
but
Samir. You don't know how often I've heard people tell me, "I found the next Triple G," and I'm like, "There's only one Triple G. There really is only one Triple G. The combination that he has with his power, his timing, his placement, his distance. I mean, everything put together. His training ethics, dedication, and just unshakable. Under the big lights. But he really opened the doors. I know Kazakhstan. There's been a lot of tremendously successful amateur boxers that won a gold medal. And then never went into the professional boxing because it really wasn't, it was pretty complicated, to go from Kazakhstan to come over here to United States. And, they had great, kind of a great lifestyle set up for them because of their success in the amateurs, whether it was in government, whether it was sponsored by a big company, whatever it was, as a spokesman. And Triple G really broke open the doors for the boxers from Kazakhstan and also like those regions that you had mentioned, that not only can you have a tremendously successful amateur career, but then, like I said, Triple G became one of the most successful ever in the sport of boxing, selling out arenas all over the world and making so many title defenses. 20 title defenses, tying the all-time middleweight championship record of Bernard Hopkins. So hopefully, if we can put that Zermeta fight together, breaking the middleweight championship defense record would be a tremendous statement for him. And like I said, I think he has a lot of fights, a lot of knockouts left in him with his lifestyle, his training ethics. Just the way he approaches boxing, his love for the sport of boxing. He made a huge sacrifice when he was in Big Bear, like 8 months out of the year when he was fighting. We had him fighting like 4 times, 3 times a year. He was the most active champion at that time.
Yeah, so he practically lived in Big Bear for the most part of the year.
His family was in Germany. And he was dedicated to his and sacrificed to his sport.
So Ali Akhmedov right now, who is training along with Triple G, and he is a part of Triple G Promotions.
Right, he signed with Triple G Promotions.
They're spending training camp together, so they're together with. So Triple G and Ali are training together basically every day, 24/7, I would say, and I think that's a tremendous experience for Ali himself. to become as great as Triple G. Where do you think his present is right now and the future? How do you see him developing as a future
Well,
champion?
there's no question Ali is an extremely talented guy. I think he's getting invaluable experience training alongside of Triple G, basically living in his camp and training with him. They spar occasionally together.
I mean, sparring sessions alone with Triple G would be probably worth, I would say, 1,000 training sessions.
No, I've seen them spar, and when they're getting ready, they fought on the same show twice now. When they're getting ready, they don't go all out when they're sparring. It's really more moving in the ring. Certainly at a pretty high boxing IQ level, as Triple G likes to say. But the harder sparring, or more intense sparring, I should say, is when we have the sparring partners there with Ali. A lot of times we get lucky where some of the guys can spar with both Triple G and Ali. That's not the easiest task in the world, if you can imagine that. But
Handle two of
because
them together, yeah.
Ali fights at 168 and Triple G at 160, a lot of times we can get 68 pounders, sometimes 175 pounders, sometimes lighter weight, 154 pounders for speed, and it works. It works well for both guys. But I think Ali is definitely a future champion, and like you said, he's getting a tremendous experience and confidence being in the camp with Triple G. That's what Emmanuel Stewart used to do with Vladimir Klitschko, where he would bring in young fighters to Vladimir's camp to show him this is how the heavyweight champion trains. This is the structure. This is what he goes through every day. I remember he brought in a young Tyson Fury to camp, not as a sparring partner, but to be around Vladimir, to be around that championship atmosphere, the training camp, and I think it made a pretty big impression on Tyson, and Emmanuel believed in Tyson Fury as being a future heavyweight champion.
And JB comes from the Kronk gym.
JB is a perfect example where Emmanuel brought JB. Jonathan Banks from Detroit, Michigan, came up through the Kronk system, actually lived in one of Emmanuel's houses as he was growing up. And Emmanuel brought JB, along with some other fighters, to Lennox Lewis's training camp. So he got to see, when he was a young fighter, got to see how Lennox was training, as the heavyweight champion at the time, who also was one of the greatest, of the modern era. To Lennox Lewis, and it's one of those things when you're exposed to that camp, like when Cecilia Brækhus, when she was training in Big Bear, we brought up Chantal Navarro, who's the daughter of a fighter that I used to manage, Nacho Navarro. She's a 5-time national champion. She's an amateur. She got to see Cecilia train, so it's that type of a situation. And Triple G, Vladimir, Cecilia, they all have that same characteristics where they like to share their knowledge and experience with the younger fighters. And Triple G is a great role model, and going back to the thing with Ali, I really think Ali is growing tremendously, under his tutelage, under the direction now of Jonathan Banks, and I think you'll see a pretty explosive performance whenever they get into the ring. Both guys, I know Triple G's been pretty much chomping at the bit to get back into the ring.
I bet Ali's hungry for some action as well right now.
As a young fighter,
exactly.
Yeah, Ali is very hungry to get in the ring.
Do you see Ali staying at 168 at the moment? Because I think it's a great division. Or do you think he can consider also moving up to 175? Like, is he firm on the weight division, or it's always negotiable?
That's really more a question with JB or James Lockwood, who's his nutritionist. But Ali does have a big frame. I think eventually he'll wind up at 175. But the way he trains and his discipline and everything, I think he'll be at 68 for at least to fight for a world title. Make some defenses. Then you got to see, how is the competition 168? Does it make sense to move to 175? That type of thing. But I see him staying at 168 for a while. You actually translated for both Triple G and
I
Ali.
did. I did.
And that's how you got the name the Mad Translator, because you always said, and it's true, a lot of times you hear like the fighter giving an answer and then the translator just giving like a kind of a monotone,
They do not
boring,
translate that emotion.
boring answer. Yeah, the emotion, and so you got the nickname the Mad Translator.
Exactly.
Not that you're angry, but the mad with like passion and emotion, and you wanted to like express the same type of answer, the same type of feeling that they're answering in their native language. And Triple G is much more expressive in Russian than he is in English, and so a lot of times, you kind of gave that extra,
Yes,
that
I
extra
definitely
emotion with the
try to do that.
translation.
Because honestly, it's not because on purpose, but I'm also as a fan of boxing and also a fan of those boxers who I translate for.
You're
I
making it entertaining.
I'm making sure that they're getting like the full scale, that the audience is getting the whole the whole
Yeah.
package of what the boxers are trying to say. So I'm trying to help out the boxers as well. I was actually fortunate to be in Ali's corner along with Stitch Duran and Maxim Golovkin
Right.
for his fight when Triple G was fighting Steve Rolls as well. So that was a great experience as well at Madison Square Garden to be there. And
Yeah, you were kind of translating.
yeah, I was
Uh,
training
in-
in the corner basically. I was being there, just helping out, and also I was there to if because Maxime was the coach
he
for
was
that
the head
corner.
trainer because Triple G naturally was the main event,
Exactly.
and Ali came on right before him, so Jonathan Banks couldn't go back to back
Exactly.
with the fights, and so Max, who normally goes to all the training camps,
Mm-hmm.
and took over the corner for Ali, and Ali did tremendous under his direction, and like you said, Stitch Duran, who's one
Yeah.
of the most experienced, that actually translates down or transcends Stitch, going from Vladimir to Triple G, and Stitch has had so many world champions.
He's keeping
that
busy. I
worked
see
with.
him everywhere right now.
Yeah.
He's on
Stitch is
ESPN
one of the
and all
best,
that. Yeah.
absolutely one of the best in the business. And you've also translated for Serhii Bohachuk, who
So
has a
that's-
fight coming up.
Exactly. So I want to talk about Serhii. He's another boxer of yours who you are promoting, and I wanted to talk to you about him because he seems to have an amazing power. A lot of boxing writers and journalists are actually pointing that out. That he's a very powerful boxer. He's been training at Big Bear for his entire career. In the United States. Now he's training in Los Angeles for the past
Right.
year.
Yeah.
He recently had his fight in September in Mexico
Yeah.
against a Mexican fighter, very strong. His last name is Davila. That fight was ended so the Mexican guy just quit basically on his chair after the sixth round.
He didn't quit. He wanted to keep fighting.
Oh, he did. Okay.
The trainer had to convince him, and the referee. I saw them both talking to him because he wanted to come out, and so he did come out for the seventh round, and then the referee basically just waved off the fight. So he definitely didn't quit, but I think it was the right decision.
Oh yeah, it was
definitely because Bohachuk.
He was dominating that fight. Everyone could see it.
He was dominating the fight. Although you got to give Davila a lot of credit. He was 21-1. He never lost in Mexico. His only loss came to Zuski when he traveled up to Canada. Mm-hmm. Whenever you go to a different country like that, and a lot of people underestimate that, there's a reason why some American fighters only fight in America. Mm-hmm. Never have gone internationally once. Sometimes never even leave their state or their own city, and they get used to their home commission. They get used to all the different comforts that they're used to. And when we went, whether it was Triple G fighting in Ukraine, he fought in Panama, he fought in Monaco 3 times.
There's always these externalities that you don't have any knowledge about, and
you
there's
don't know
always some unexpected things can
with
happen.
The local commissions, with the officials. Each testing procedure is different down there. The medicals, the food is different. You could travel
Climate.
easily. When we were in Panama, easily could have been food poisoning down there, or on the airplane he ate something that might not agree with him. And I remember the one time that one of the fights in Panama where there was an issue with his visa to leave the country, to get in, and
you're talking about Triple G right now.
Triple G,
yeah.
And his managers were working on it, and I remember he was with Abel at the time, and they were actually sitting in the airport in LA.
Hmm.
They missed their scheduled flight. Then they had to take a
That's the
red eye
worst.
flight,
Yeah. Oh, red eyes,
and then they
man.
had to change planes, and then they had to fly to Panama. And then he arrived basically just in time for the weigh-in. They drove him over the weigh-in. He wasn't eating anything the whole
Hmm.
time. He got no sleep. He had no food. Just barely made it to the weigh-in, and then he didn't look very good at all.
Hmm.
Or let me rephrase that.
Hmm.
Not that he didn't look good. He didn't look his usual self, which
Yeah.
is always dominant and very impressive
Hmm.
against Kasim Uma.
Hmm.
And so you could say he had an off performance, but there was a good reason why he had an off performance. But that's just an example of, back then, you know,
You guys are trying to fight it like as often as possible, and you're trying to fight
well,
anyone.
at that point, he was still kind of going through the legal situation, getting out of his contract with his German promoter.
Right.
And so he couldn't fight in the United States, couldn't fight in Germany. Panama accepted him to fight over there because he was a WBA champion.
Hmm.
And the WBA helped set up those fights over there. And yeah, but again, when the example I was leading to was Kell Brook. When Triple G went to London, sold out
Hmm.
the O2 Arena versus Kell Brook. A lot of UK fans turned out.
Oh yeah, it was a sold out arena.
To support Triple G.
Hmm.
Kell Brook naturally was kind of like the home country favorite, but Triple G had a lot of fans there, and a lot of the UK fans. Look, the UK fans are very educated fans, just like the fans of Mexico. When he would travel to Mexico and do interviews or do charity appearances, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
so Bohachuk traveling to Mexico during the time of
Yep.
pandemic is kind of a risk that you guys took because not
That
only
that adds a whole nother twist to it. During the pandemic, you know,
there's like a low action, so there's low activity. Serhii was supposed to fight in March and at the end of March, but that
Yep.
fight got canceled because of COVID.
because
So
of COVID, that's
he
right.
had to basically be on hiatus, and that kind of affected his training as well, as far as like what he told me. And then so he had to retrain again. He had to start the camp again. He returned back from the Big Bear, so there was like a
Right.
switch of coaches
Switch
as
of
well.
trainers,
Yep.
right? There was some issues with the management and Abel Sanchez, so he didn't want to get in the middle of those legal back and forth.
Which,
So
again, Serhii, during his interview, always pays respect to Abel Sanchez. He says, I absolutely respect him, and I thankful to him for all what he's done to him in terms of, his career and his
it's
style.
interesting because Abel gave him a tremendous. Serhii was a very good amateur, but he wasn't like one of those top level amateurs like a Lomachenko, like a Triple G, like
Still was a champion of
Vladimir
Ukraine
Klitschko.
during his
Yeah,
amateur, so he
was,
still has some titles there.
He was
so.
a Ukrainian champion. He just wasn't at that top level. But I think Abel gave him a very, very solid professional foundation for the professional style. I mean, you could really say taught him the Mexican style, just like he taught Triple G. Serhii's different, even though he's 18-0 with 18 knockouts. He's got a different type of power. Triple G could really take you out like he took out Rubio in the second round with one punch. He came over. Rubio was in full guard, and he came over the top
Right.
and knocked him out that way. Serhii doesn't necessarily have that one punch knockout power. He just has such a high work rate, and just keeps that pace up, that intensity up, and very heavy-handed body shots, great body shots. And what I was getting at is, so Abel gave him a great foundation, and then Manny Robles has really made a great transition, or Serhii's made a great transition with Manny. Manny was very popular in Mexico, being down there with Andy Ruiz,
Absolutely.
first
that
heavyweight
fight,
champion,
which
from
we've been
Mexico,
to together as well.
Mexican
Ruiz
heavyweight
Joshua
champion.
first fight. Oh
Yeah,
my God,
and,
what an experience!
Manny was telling me, it was we were in Madison Square Garden for that fight, and they had been down there on kind of like on Ruiz's victory tour.
Yeah.
Where he
I
met
bet
with
it was
the
crazy.
president of Mexico, and so Manny, in his own right, is a celebrity there.
You know
in,
what I like
Mexico.
about Switch when Bohachuk started training with Manny Robles? There was an interview with Manny Robles, and Manny said, "I actually called Abel Sanchez myself, and I said I need your
That's
blessing.
true. Yeah, that's absolutely
With
true.
your blessing, I will start training with Bohachuk, but only if you approve this." And
When trainers are at that level and have that much respect, normally a trainer would like jump. Oh, I got an opportunity to train this, undefeated guy from Ukraine who has a lot of knockouts. But
promoted by Tom Loeffler.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it
We
adds
built
up a lot
his
of weight.
career from kind of unknown in the professionals to now he's in the top 10 of a number of the ratings organizations.
Absolutely, and WBC and WBO, I think.
But I've known Manny for a number of years, and I have a lot of respect for him. And if someone was going to take over the guidance of Serhii's training, I have complete confidence
Yeah.
in Manny. And
But just that camaraderie between the coaches, between the trainers, I really like that. That there was no, so how to say, there was no like residual bad blood or something like that. Everything is kind of good, and everyone respected the
well,
decision.
the issue wasn't between Serhii
Exactly.
and Abel,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure Abel would have done the same thing if an established fighter had come to him. He would, out of respect, call the previous
Mm-hmm.
trainer, so basically, Abel gave Manny.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he needed his permission, but
Exactly.
basically his blessing. Like, yeah, go ahead. Serhei's a great guy, good training. Kind of explain the situation. It wasn't by choice,
Mm-hmm.
really, between them, and I think Serhei's in good hands right now. And
You know what I like about his last fight, which was the first fight, by the way, with Manny Robles. So that
mhm.
needs to be accounted
There
as
were so
well.
many. I tell you, Serhii, it's not Serhii, Samir.
Uh-huh.
I tell you, there was so many variables in that fight.
It's crazy that you made it happen. I mean, it's
Well, during the pandemic,
exactly.
there was really no shows here in California. Certainly not the Hollywood fight nights where we were building up Bohachuk, where
Which
we had a
was
packed
Bohachuk's
house at the
home arena,
Avalon.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, at one of the famous Hollywood nightclubs here, and we were really keeping Serhii busy. He fought one year. He fought 5 fights here in the U.S., 1 fight in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next year he fought 5 fights here.
Yep.
And he was really at the level he was at, one of the most active fighters,
Mm-hmm.
in that middleweight, super welterweight division.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go with a new trainer during COVID conditions, having to fly to Mexico,
On top of that,
fighting a tough guy
pouring
with
rain,
Davila.
pouring rain
Yeah.
during the fight.
Well,
Everything was kind of
it's
against
funny.
the
I got
whole
to tell
thing.
you, I was in the bubble with Cecilia Brecus,
Uh-huh.
and that was a rough bubble in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Mexico, I got to say, it was in Merida, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Got to give them a lot of credit
Yucatan.
down there.
Yeah.
Yucatan, yeah, Max Boxing down there,
Mm-hmm.
Boxing Promotions, and Mario Abraham. He turned out to be a good friend who was down there, and the Mayan culture, everything, naturally Manny Robles was used to the whole Mexican culture, being, Mexican descent.
And Serhii was telling me as well that because he's talking some Spanish now at the gym, because of his coach's background
Yeah.
and the guys with his spars with and training with, he was like, it was so cool to talk to people in Yucatan and just simply say, "Hola, gracias," or,
Yeah.
a couple
He
words.
was
Like
he was definitely
he was enjoying doing that.
he was expanding his vocabulary, and he really took to it. He really took to the Mexican people there. We did a lot of interviews, a lot of publicity
Hmm.
leading up to the fight, not only here in the United States before we left, but also down there in Mexico, and fighting a known fighter with Davila from Mexico City. So a lot of his fights were televised. And so you have this undefeated Ukrainian guy that a lot of Mexican fans hadn't seen, defending his. Naturally, you got to give credit to the WBC. They did a lot of publicity also for the fight down there.
Oh yeah.
And fighting a known strong fighter in Davila. A lot of people thought Davila was going to win the fight. They're like, "Who's this Ukrainian guy coming down here, fighting in our territory?" And
He came to win. I mean, from the round one, he just started pressuring Serhii, and it was
Yeah.
interesting to see Serhii under pressure because that was the first time I saw Serhii kind of going into defense position, and even he told me himself, like, this is the first time I actually, realized like I got to practice my defense skills with him, and he was really proud of the fact that he.
No, Davila came out very strong, throwing a lot of punches, and really had Serhii backing up the first part of that first round. Then I mean, you don't want to be stupid and just go, all out, and and you never know, you
Exactly.
got to be
Serhii didn't
smart,
take he didn't take the bait during the
right?
first
You
round.
got
He
to
could
be
have.
smart.
Yeah.
You got to use your boxing skills. He didn't fold under pressure. Um, you got to give Davi a lot of credit. He was very confident during the whole build up to the promotion. At the weigh-in,
He looked great too. He
at
was
the
in
press
shape. Yeah.
conference, he was in tremendous shape.
Mm-hmm.
And but after that second round, then he started turning the tide,
Mm-hmm.
and took over from there. And then getting back to your point, that after 6 rounds, it was smart that the corner stopped it,
Oh
the
yeah. I
referee
mean,
stopped
everyone
it,
could see it.
because Davila is a great fighter, but it's one of those things where it's better to live for another day.
Mm-hmm. For another
Certainly,
fight.
he
Yeah.
didn't want to stop the fight, but
Mm-hmm.
the corner stopped it, which was smart. And sure, there's a lot of other guys in that division that Davila can beat, just not Serhii Bohachuk, who I think Bohachuk will go on to win a world title. He's got a very tough challenge
Brings us
coming
to
up.
December 3rd.
Yeah, December
Brandon
3.
Adams is his next opponent.
Yeah.
Huge name. Brandon Adams, fought Charlo, went the whole 12 rounds with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Fought the 160-pound Charlo.
at 160 pounds. So
The middleweight champion went the distance, 12-round distance, like you said.
that was a
with,
title fight, a fight for the title.
Yeah, sure. It was a WBC championship fight. Now Brandon Adams has come down to super welterweight, which he says is more of his natural weight.
Exactly, because he's not a tall guy, and he looks very,
He was
very
much smaller than Charlo when they were standing next to each
if
other.
you look at his pictures right now, he's just like
He's in great shape.
He's in great shape, covered with muscles, and he's really quick. He's always against Charlo. He's really quick and very uncomfortable.
Yeah, he has Brandon's got a lot of TV exposure over the years. He was in the Contender series, like you said, he challenged for the world title against Charlo, and so this is a tremendous matchup. You could say that Adams actually has more professional experience than Serhii Bohachuk, but it's one of those. This is Ring City made it clear. I've been talking to them since February about putting Bohachuk on, putting Ceballo on. Ceballo had fought on both of Triple G shows.
Brian Ceballo from Brooklyn native.
Ceballo,
yeah.
That's right, from Brooklyn, Puerto Rican descent. Actually born in Puerto Rico of Dominican descent, and then raised in Brooklyn. And Brian is very marketable, very popular, especially in that New York area.
He did a great performance against Yuba from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, who was also from Kazakhstan. He beat your
he beat my guy, but he's also I don't know to what extent he's from Kazakhstan, but he claims he is, so I'll give him that.
But that guy could fight too. That guy had
it was a great fight, by the way.
It
was a war. It was a great fight.
He was undefeated with a lot of, I think it was like 12-0 with 11 knockouts, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's another example of Brian, looking good on the Hollywood shows, but he really raised his. I was very nervous for that fight. That was on the Triple G show, like you said.
Right.
I was very nervous in that fight because it just seemed like a huge step up in competition. But he knew if he was going to fight at the Triple G show at Madison Square Garden, he had to fight a tough guy. And definitely Yubov came to fight. He was punching hard, and it was more like a bull and matador.
Exactly,
situation.
and that was another instance where with Brian actually his skills started kicking in, and he got a lot of praise from a lot of writers and just insiders for.
It was a breakout performance for Brian Ceballo, but also, which is important in boxing, which Triple G knows, Brian sold a lot of tickets being on the undercard. Sold a lot of tickets being on the undercard, and
so would you say it's something like an anomaly? All of a sudden, this guy sells a lot of tickets, which is it's not really common for that level of fight. All of a sudden, he sold.
No, not an anomaly for Brian Ceballo. No, he's very popular.
No, but overall, I guess
in general, it is because a lot of fighters say, I just want to focus on the fight. I don't want to do interviews. I want to do this, but Brian understands the whole. Not only have to look good in the ring, but the promotion, and that's what Triple G went through the whole thing. We were like, we had him at Dodger Stadium throwing out the first pitch 3 times. We had him with Dale Earnhardt Jr. at NASCAR out here.
Oh yeah, I saw the pictures.
When it was
That's
in
cool.
California.
Yeah.
He was on the field at Azteca Stadium in Mexico, introduced as a national Mexican hero. So
you think Brian will go that path as well? He will
absolutely.
do the business
Brian
of promotion.
Understands what he needs to do to take his career to the next level. Not only look good in the ring, he's very open to interviews. allowing media to watch him train. Now you got to be careful with the whole COVID situation. You really, whether you're publicizing the fight or you're risking exposure to COVID. But
Yeah.
in the old days, last year,
Back in the
pre-COVID,
day.
it was he was very open to the media, and he got a big opportunity being on the Triple G shows.
So let's talk about that then. Ring City is putting that fight night on December 3rd for Serhii Bohachuk, Brandon Adams, so they will be headlining that event.
It's actually going to be a third fighter that I work with on that show, Adrian Montoya.
Oh, wow.
Who's also a veteran of the Hollywood Fight Nights. But I think this will be one of the most competitive pairings between the main event and co-main event. You got Bohachuk versus Brandon Adams. Bohachuk's defending his WBC Continental Americas title against Brandon Adams, who arguably has more professional experience than Bohachuk. So that's really a 50-50 fight right there. And then you have Brian Ceballo, who's going to be challenging for the WBO international title.
Oh, okay. So that's a step up for him as well.
Yeah.
In his career.
Against Larry Gomez. And I think Gomez is 10-1. So they have very similar records. I think Ceballo was 11-0, and Larry Gomez is 10-1. Somewhere in that range. But that's a very even fight as well. So you got those two. The main event, co-main event.
Gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, don't miss that one.
Don't miss that
NBC
fight, guys.
Sports,
wow.
December 3 from the world famous
Wildcard
right? Gym.
So it's going to be
Roach.
at the gym, at Freddie Roach's gym at Wildcard.
Yep.
And so they will form their own bubble there as well. I think there's first fight for that bubble will happen tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah.
So they have the hotel for that and everything. So it's going to be its own little bubble. That's interesting. It's people doing that. And would that be the first fight in California?
No.
Okay.
Golden Boy has done fight.
That means the whole thing where
actually
they
two fights at Fantasy Springs. You've got the Mike Tyson show coming up at Staples Center.
Oh wow, that's another thing that you
so
cannot miss.
A lot of people are talking about that. November, end of November. I think it's the 28th. Or
I
29th.
think so. Yeah, I need to look into it. But Tyson is already saying it's 11 days. In 11 days, I'm in there. He's playing with pigeons and ready for war.
Mike Tyson is popular, fighting Roy Jones. That might not be, at that level of their prime, but the number of fans that are going to tune into that, I think, it's gonna create worldwide attention.
The question is, will the war instinct of the conqueror wake up in the spirit of Mike Tyson? Will he all of a sudden get angry and it's like, you know what? And he will go all in and we will see.
I'm not sure the rules or if it's an exhibition or competitive or whatever that is. I know the California Commission was kind of going back and forth on how it's going to be structured, but either way, seeing Mike Tyson was one of my all-time favorite fighters, and seeing him in the ring, it'll be interesting.
It'll be great
to see how that turns out. But the Ring City folks, you got to give them a lot of credit. They're doing kind of a similar concept to what I did with the Superfly shows.
Oh, okay.
Where I had so many different fighters from different promoters. Sometimes we had 4 fights on TV, and it felt like every fighter was from a different promoter. But it made for the best matchups.
Yeah, I've been to 2 Superfly shows that you promoted and organized, and those were amazing shows. The turnout was amazing. So I really missed those, and hopefully at some point we can create something. It was
very Superfly was very successful, and because of the matchups, it was successful, and that's why again Ring City is going in that same vein where they just want to make the best matchups. They don't get caught up in the politics of boxing where. A lot of times promoters or TV networks say, okay, if we're going to put you on, you got to sign 3 options, you got to sign 5 options, whatever it is, and then that discourages a lot of times the fight from being made. I remember when we were trying to make the fight with Top Rank with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Bob Arum offered him a tremendous amount of money. I remember the numbers. He offered him $7 million to fight Triple G. And can you imagine back then the economics? Triple G changed the economics of the middleweight division where it just got crazy. But so not only did he offer him $7 million, he offered him if he lost, he would offer him $5 million in a comeback fight. So it was a guaranteed $12 million. But his Chavez's contract was coming to an end, and Top Rank, naturally, if they're going to spend that kind of money, they wanted to have an extension of the contract, and that's what killed the fight. Chavez Jr. didn't agree for the extension with Top Rank, and
what a shame. I remember Triple G calling him out in the center of the ring, like, I want Chavez Jr.
Yeah.
And that would be
that would have been a great fight on one of the Mexican holidays. It would have been a tremendous fight because Triple G had so many passionate fans.
There was
from Mexico.
a lot of fans from Mexico, and
Chavez Jr. was, a lot of people kind of look down on him now, but at that time, remember when he fought Sergio Martinez?
Yeah.
And he lost the fight, lost pretty much every round except for that 12th round. He ruined Sergio's knee, his career, and he dropped him. And so he was, very competitive at the time, and that's those were the type of fights we were looking for, competitive fights, marketable opponents. And, had we gotten a Chavez Jr., had we gotten a Canelo earlier, had we gotten a Cotto, had we gotten a Felix Sturm, who Triple G was who was the mandatory for 2 years. They actually changed the rules to protect Felix.
It's amazing to what extent Gennadiy Golovkin was avoided
by all these big names.
Still is avoided.
Sergio Martinez, I have a tremendous amount for Sergio Martinez. Also, he was one of my favorite fighters, watching him fight. But his promoter famously said, we're not letting Triple G anywhere near Sergio Martinez. And Sergio was considered the best middleweight at the time. So if you're saying, okay, I got the best middleweight, but I'm not letting that guy anywhere near my guy, that says all you know. Gary Shaw, I think, was very honest when we did the Daniel Geale fight, and he clearly said Triple G was the best middleweight that he's seen when he knocked out Geale with that, strange where he got hit, and then a second later he came back and knocked out Geale. Or Lou DiBella said the same thing when Triple G broke some of Matthew Macklin's ribs, and Matthew Macklin is as tough as they come. And for him to fold up that way, writhing in pain on the canvas, he was so dominant at the time, and a lot of champions really swerved. Carl Froch in England had a famous saying, just swerve Triple G. Who needs to get in the ring with him?
God,
so. Yeah, it was. It would have made my job a lot easier, and we were offering career high paydays. Like I said, the Chavez offer was huge. Felix Sturm would have made a lot of money fighting Triple G. Sergio Martinez, we would have made the deal so that it would have favored him. But if you can imagine Sergio Martinez at Madison Square Garden against Triple G, that would have been a huge event. So it's not like we were offering low money for these guys to fight. They were going to get career high paydays. David Lemieux got a career high payday to fight Triple G, for example. But it was unfortunate. But in spite of all that avoidance, we still.
In spite of all that, you guys
made him
created
into
fights.
A huge star, and HBO, got to give HBO credit because both Mark Taffet and Peter Nelson over there said, "Look, if we can't get these guys to fight," and they knew the score. I mean, they were talking to the promoters directly, and the promoters were saying, "No chance." I remember they were going to do a middleweight tournament. It was going to be Sergio Martinez,
like WBSS.
No, an HBO tournament, a 4-man tournament after Triple G's HBO debut with Proxa, and all the HBO fans were going crazy. Like, when can we see him back on? And then he fought Gabe Rosado, who actually, coincidentally, now Gabe Rosado, 7 years later, is fighting Danny Jacobs at 168. And we got criticized for fighting Rosado at 160 because he was the number one contender at 154, but he knew it was going to take, also boxing politics, was going to take a long time for him to get that mandatory title shot. And we offered him much more money than what he could have made as super welterweight
154,
at 154. So they took the fight, and now he's fighting 168 against Danny Jacobs. So yeah, we were able to. What I was getting back to is that HBO said, "Look, we know these guys don't want to fight, so it's gonna be like a spoke. I remember them describing it. Triple G and be in the middle, and whoever wants to fight him will put the fight on. So we had the support of HBO, but they made the right decision because even though Triple G might not have fought the most marquee name, he got the highest ratings when he fought Curtis Stevens. It was huge ratings. When he fought Rubio, was tremendous ratings, and this was on regular HBO. This wasn't on pay-per-view. Even the Dominic Wade fight. Dominic Wade wasn't a household name. He was a IBF mandatory. So Triple G had to fight him, and that got tremendous ratings. So.
Every time Triple G fought, it's a celebration. Basically, everyone get together.
Yeah, it was a big
fight.
party.
You cannot miss that fight, and you cannot blink because knockout can happen at any moment.
Yeah,
any
fans
second.
came out early. They did tailgating, and people have kind of accused me of using the Mexican-style angle.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter recently.
Yeah, that came up. I think who was it? Gervonta Davis wore the Mexican colors and got criticized for it. And someone had said something. Well, Triple G didn't get criticized, but that wasn't my marketing plan. That was Abel being from Mexico, Triple G giving an interview with Max Kellerman at I think it was the Daniel Geale fight. Said how would you describe your style? And Triple G said Mexican style, because of my coach. And then I took that. We were able to get the Rubio fight. And that's we named it Mexican style.
Yes, and I remember organically, in terms of Mexican fans, how they were excited, and they're still excited about Triple G fights. And I remember on Facebook looking at all these pictures that they would do, like Triple G with 2 guns and some.
It was
Mexicans for Golovkin. So it definitely was something that was organically happening.
They made Mr. Boxing Guru Sal. He came down. He made his own Mexicans for Golovkin shirts.
Yeah,
that's pretty dedicated fans. Making their own shirts for a guy from Kazakhstan, and it just took off. And again, he definitely showed respect to the fans from Mexico. He went to Mexico a number of times. And
you've mentioned that he donated to charities there. It wasn't publicized because you guys were not looking for any publicity about that, but that was something that you guys just did.
He went to a camp. I remember there was a story. Not a story. I was with them there. We were in a children's cancer ward where there was this one girl who was just crying nonstop, and they actually had to, she had like the intravenous, it's like really, touching being there. And, he was handing out toys. It was coordinated with WBC and WBC Cares down there. Mauricio Suleiman was there. Jill Diamond was there organizing it from the WBC. And, this one girl was like in bed, just crying, like yelling because of pain, or she was just uncomfortable, and she had the intravenous things, and because and then her hands were kind of like restrained, so she wouldn't pull the
needles
tubes,
out of her,
the tubes out of her veins, and so Triple G came up and gave her a present, and all of a sudden, like, she started smiling and she stopped crying. It's just like the effect that he had down there was really authentic, as far as the connection.
Amazing.
And with Serhii, he's got the nickname El Flaco, and so when getting back to that fight in Mexico, he's probably one of the few guys of his caliber who actually went down to defend his title in Mexico, and so you got.
Didn't they announce about the ratings as well? There was like the highest ratings on the channel that was showing.
On Grupo Cipse, who's a network down there, especially in that Yucatan region, that got one of the highest rated shows ever.
I remember he thanked Yucatan on Twitter, and there was a huge response from that because everyone's.
He appreciated it. We were treated very well. He was treated very well, even though he was fighting a fighter from Mexico. The Mexican fans respect.
They respect boxing. They respect sport, and if
they respect
skill.
Sportsmanship, and that's what Triple G showed. That's what Bohachuk showed. As long as you respect sportsmanship or show respect for your opponents, and you respect the rules, you respect the sport, then the Mexican fans will respect you as a boxer, whether you're from Mexico or not. They just like your style, and also they like your style. They like the aggressive styles. They don't like the boxers that are kind of boring 12-round, 10-round decisions, and so they want to see action. Triple G, Bohachuk, they throw those left hooks to the body that is very common or one of
Much appreciated. Hooks in Mexican fan
one of
base,
the best
basically.
punches, for Mexican style boxing.
Absolutely. So, going back to Ring City, I just would like to give a shout out to Evan Radkowski, who's
Sure.
the head of boxing. I
Yep.
loved his podcast, and I miss his podcast, Fistian on the Spot. Evan, thanks so much for the information. I learned a lot from your podcast, and I'm excited to see how you will manage Ring City and boxing in general within the Ring City platform. December 3, Serhii Bohachuk fights Brandon Adams, which is a huge fight. It's a very even fight. Nail-biting fight, I would say. So definitely something that people need to tune in on December 3rd. The channel is
NBC Sports
NBC
Network,
Sports
which
Network.
is included. You don't have to pay extra for it. It's included in your basic cable package, and we are looking to heavily promote both the Bohachuk and Ceballo fights on that show. Adrian Montoya as well, and not only Evan, but Kurt Emhoff.
I only know Evan. I don't know anyone else
who
from
had
there,
the,
so go ahead and give them a shout out.
Kurt had the podcast with Evan.
Oh, okay.
And he does a lot of their legal work. Frank kind of runs the company there. Sam from which everyone knows from Churchill Boxing and Peter Berg.
Karan Bhatia is also going to be on the broadcasting team,
Karan
so
Bhatia, yeah.
shout out to you, man.
Yeah, Karan. We've done interviews with Karan, who's also a former HBO employee. So
Yes.
we're excited that it's a new platform. When DAZN first came along, I said, look, it's great for boxing because the more platforms, the more money that comes into the sport, the better it is for the boxing. And now Ring City actually gives an opportunity for promoters to get their, I can't lie, they're tough fights, and they should be. I mean, they're holding the fighters who are approved to high standards. And I think tomorrow's the first show. It'll be interesting to see that, but I think it'll be successful because of the dynamics that they have. They have good quality fights, evenly matched fights, and guys coming up like a Ceballo, like a Bohachuk, and I think it'll do really well.
Absolutely, I think so too. Tom, thanks so much for your time. I know you need to go soon, but I really appreciate your
Samir,
time.
it's good to have you back in LA. Too bad you're not moving here, but I know you're having a good time up there in Toronto, and always great to have you down here.
Absolutely, and I hope you will visit Toronto and we can hang out in
I've
Toronto as
never,
well.
Out of all the cities I've been to all the world, I've never been to Toronto, but I've heard tremendous.
It's a shame.
things
We should
about
fix
it.
that
Heard
immediately,
great
as soon
things
as
about
possible.
Toronto. So yeah, as soon as you find the cure for this virus,
Well, I believe
then
we're close. I believe
I'll
we're
be
close.
up there.
Yeah. All right, Tom, thanks so much.
Good. Thanks, Samir.